Hey, Radiant Church. I came upon some interesting words in the book of Isaiah this morning, and I just felt like there's something in it for us, especially as we're reading so many of the prophets in this sermon series right now. So I'm going to read it and just share a few thoughts in Isaiah 26, and the context is Isaiah 24 through 27 are what commentators call Isaiah's apocalypse. So there's actually a bit about the end of the age, God's judgments, and the restoration of all things. It's like a mini book of Revelation in these four chapters, Isaiah 24 through 27. So that's the context. I'm going to zoom in here on chapter 26 and read a couple verses. Verse 9, this is Isaiah talking. He says, "My soul yearns for you in the night. In the morning, my spirit longs for you. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. But when grace is shown to the wicked, they do not learn righteousness. Even in a land of uprightness, they go on doing evil and do not regard the majesty of the Lord." So when I was reading this, I was just thinking of how little we talk about this. It's kind of the elephant in the room, actually, in the church. It can be the judgments of God. And I thought, let's get it out and let's talk about this thing. The judgments of God, they are all over the prophets, to the point that is the reason why a lot of us just skip it. We skip the prophets because it just sounds like somebody's mad. God's mad. The prophet's mad. Somebody's mad. This is weird. I'm more used to the New Testament. But I think we need a new paradigm of looking at the judgment of God, the justice of God, not just so we tolerate it, but so we actually can love it. We can actually love this aspect of the character of God, that he is a judge, that he is just, that though justice is delayed oftentimes in this world, justice is never denied ultimately because of who God is, that it's part of his goodness. I love how one of my favorite Bible teachers says it. He says that the judgments of God are God removing everything that hinders love. This is not the shadowy side of God that we should, hide in the closet. This is a brilliant and beautiful aspect of God. His judgments remove everything that hinder love. So let's look at this verse again. When your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. When we see the justice of God, there's something in us that wakes up and go, oh wow, he's serious about right and wrong. And we need that. That is healthy. Psalm 19 says that the fear of the Lord is clean. And there's something about the fear of the Lord that cleanses our souls on the inside. What's the fear of the Lord? The fear of the Lord is not being scared to draw near to God. It's having a reverence for God. That's how a lot of people describe it. I think John Bevere describes it as the fear of being away from God. And I think those are legit. It's just more than that, though. I think one way I would describe it is that there's a little bit of a tremble on the inside of our spirit when we meditate on God's justice, when we realize that evil has consequences, when we realize that there is right and there is wrong and that God really cares about it. That's all part of the fear of the Lord, and it's connected to what we're talking about today, the justice of God, that the people of the world actually learn righteousness when they see his judgments. And the next verse says, "But when grace is shown to the wicked, they do not learn righteousness." And again, you think, but I thought What about the whole turn your other cheek, love your enemies? Like, didn't Jesus teach something different? And I want to say he didn't teach something different. There are two truths that go together perfectly. And Jesus always shows grace. It's his kindness that leads us to repentance. But what this verse is saying is that sometimes the kindness of God doesn't lead people to repentance. That I believe that's always God's first strategy, but sometimes it doesn't lead them to repentance, and that's when his judgments come into play. They're his next strategy, we could say, to wake people up and to teach them the righteousness of God. And that's about all we have time for right now. I know it's a huge can of worms to open, but I just wanted to just shine a light on this aspect of God's character, that he loves righteousness and he hates wickedness. That's what Psalm 45 says, that the Messiah loves righteousness, he hates wickedness, and he's anointed with the oil of gladness more than any of his companions. That's in Psalm 45, that somehow this holiest of holy gods, this just judge in the heavens, is also the happiest being on earth, who's in love with us, who wants us to be close to him, who wants us near to his heart, but he also wants us to learn righteousness, which is what Isaiah is saying. So let's not leave out one aspect of God's character, because all of it is part of his good and perfect nature. Bless you guys.